Britain's empire was based on them dominating the world economy, right? The sun never sets on the British Isle. We are everywhere. We have the best navy to protect our global. Did it save their empire from going down? No. The empire before them was the dominant player, the Dutch, the French. If you want to go back further, the Greek, the Roman. I mean, stop. This is a weird theater of gesture, of put America first. First of all, every politician who's ever been in that office has said more or less that. The only difference you might say is Mr. Trump tries to emphasize that because it's such an old, empty phrase by demonizing his predecessor and Democrats and even earlier Republicans as woefully inattentive to putting America first, which is not only historically inaccurate, it's more childish. There is a determined cheerleader here. We're going to get the Chinese with a tariff. We're going to get them in Taiwan. We're going to get them with our Navy in the South China Sea. And now we're going to get them in Panama. We're going to get them. Meanwhile, with all of that noise, which he did in his first presidential race, which was sadly copied in large part by Biden, the United States has fallen further behind China. The gap between the G7's economic footprint in the world economy and the BRICS economic footprint has gotten further and further apart in the favor of the Chinese. This year, the International Monetary Fund announced that 2024, the U.S. economy grew 2.8%. The Chinese economy grew 5%, and the Indian economy 7%. That means the two major players in the BRICS are growing respectively 2 and 3 times faster than the United States. We are presiding over an empire that's declining and a capitalist system in deep doo-doo. But then to go on with these gestures of domination and we're going to get the canal back, whether we get the canal back or not, isn't going to change things. The president has announced that he's going to do a whole host of things for Mexico and Canada, violating the treaty he signed and announcing it as something that is going to be done and imposed is quote unquote national security and the drug trade. Every president in my lifetime has committed himself to a war on drugs, which continues to this day because whoever the enemy exactly is, he has not been vanquished. The drugs are all around us. We were having friendly relations, as far as I knew, with our two neighbors. Why are they being talked to this way? It's only going to put their hackles up, force them to call on all nationalism in their society to repel all. This is so weird that it bespeaks a mentality we ought to wonder about. And then, if again you wanted to question something about the canal, you can call a meeting. You could bring it to the attention of the Organization of American States. You could lay out a reasoned argument, but you didn't do any of that. You just suddenly blurted out like a person who forgot the environment they're in and also had one martini too many, and bleh, out it came with half of today's lunch. This is bizarre. It has led to a number of countries, including China, in making use of the canal for its ships. So the Chinese have built facilities to handle their shipping since it goes through the canal, just as the United States has done. So clearly what this is another way to hit at China. President Trump said he's going to take it back because the Chinese have grabbed it or are about to grab it. and then changing the name of the Gulf of Mexico, which he's also decided unilaterally to do, even though that Gulf has a coastline with other countries beside the United States. This is bravado, bullying, but above all, an attempt to deny that the position of the United States in the world has been shrinking, not growing. The Manifest Destiny is a pronouncement full of bravado by an American government that has done two things that are impressive. It has defeated Britain in a military confrontation of 1776, and then when the British tried a second time in the War of 1812 to do it again, it was defeated again, and the United States was now in a position to say, hey, we are the defeaters of England. Between the First and the Second War in the United States, Britain had fought Napoleon, who was arguably the most powerful leader Europe had ever seen, and defeated, finally, Napoleon. And so the Americans had a moment of self-glorification that was unrivaled in terms of anything they had seen before. And as if to drive home to the Europeans what it meant, it basically said, okay, you've taken over Asia and Africa and all of that, but our empire is south of us. Latin America, the Western Hemisphere, now that we have bested you European, okay? And so where are we now? We lost the war in Vietnam. We fought that against the Communist Party of North Vietnam. They're in charge ever since we left. Then we went to Afghanistan, where once again we lost the war. That war was fought against the Taliban. Who's in charge in Afghanistan today? The Taliban. In Iraq, we tried to suppress what? But Muslim majority that is in power now. Unless you are an American reading American newspapers, we are now losing the war in Iraq. You know what those are signs of? You're now losing in wars against the poorest countries on this planet. You don't look good, Jack. The good people of Panama? Really? Of Greenland? Of your two major neighboring trading partners? Who are you kidding? The election shows that there's half the people in this country whose anxieties, much more realistically grounded in the actual weakness of the American economy, those anxieties are looking for something, and until they wise up, they will be open to theatrics, because and only because it's better than nothing. The Democratic Party gives them no alternative worth being excited about at all. And so that's one more reason to go with the theater, as the French would say, faute de mieux, for lack of something better. That's the only sector of the United States that remains both capitalist and dynamic. It's growing, it's reinvesting a good bit of its money, and it's doing well that way. Everything else in the United States is in trouble, even the military, which will be an argument used. The latest missile that the Russians deployed is a missile that is more capable not only than anything the United States has, but is able to avoid all the anti-aircraft, anti-missile defense that the West has. It turns out the Russians, who are a much smaller, much poorer economy than the United States, were able, by overstressing their military, to make this kind of a breakthrough. This is an economy in trouble, but it is determined to give the centerpiece to the tech people in California, because it's the only growth industry basically left, to try to beat up on China to hold it back. They've had absolutely no success in the latter for the last 20 years, and there's no prospect of success in the future. What's left? The bromance between the government and the high-tech industry, and that's what you saw on display. That's what this inauguration solidifies. And I think you're going to see that Mr. Musk is inheriting the intrinsic logic of capitalism, which makes very few people very wealthy and the mass of people very unwealthy. The book by Piketty in France a few years ago to show you that wherever capitalism has settled, it has generated rising inequality, punctuated only by those infrequent moments when the mass of people rose up protesting it. Then it stopped for a while, and as soon as those protests died down, it resumed. Elon Musk is where capitalism has always been going, only now it's been unfettered for enough decades to give him $400 billion, and he's doing what a tiny minority of super rich people do, is protect themselves by using their money to buy the political system, whether it be in Germany or here, to buy the media. Bezos owns the Washington Post. I mean, it's a joke. And now Musk says he wants to buy TikTok. You're watching the logic of capitalism. And the only interesting thing to me is, as more and more people see how ugly it is, how fundamentally anti-democratic, it's still taking them time to recognize that the problem is capitalism and not some particular policy or particular politician. I spent a lot of my life studying German fascism above all, but also a little bit Francisco's in Spain and Mussolini's in Italy. When you cannot get the voluntary acceptance of capitalism anymore, when you can't get people to accept this level of wages, so that whether in Starbucks or in Amazon, they're beginning to say in large or no. When you see federal employees gearing up to say no to the presidential order that you have to come back to work in the office so we can dominate you in a way we can't if you're at home. When the resistance to that builds, this is a president who will be confronted with a temptation he probably cannot resist, which is to use the military, to begin to fuse the repressive apparatus of the government with the economic system, because you can't preserve the economic system any other way. People become authoritarian when the situation pulls that out of them or them into it. We're not there yet, but this is not a president who will hesitate. In order to make his theater against the immigrant look good, he sends a token number of military right away, his first days in office. That amount of military makes no difference to the issue. It's all the theater. The army, I'm going to use the army. Let me end with this. History teaches us that countries that are inhumane to their foreign enemies will sooner or later do the same thing to their own people. The horror of Israel is not just what they do to Arabs, but what they are and will continue to do more and more to their own Jewish people.